Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Brittingham.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are And so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. Your business, why are you doing it? How is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, who's steady?
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. All right. Well, listen, this week's episode is very special. It's part one of a two-part show series that I've dubbed with my friends and panelists that are joining me, Success in America. So this episode and the next episode is really all about my genesis of getting involved and really involved in my son's education at a local level with our local school board, our administrators, and really understanding where the educational system is in grade school as it relates to preparing students for life and for skills and for careers. My son in ninth grade was suicidal. 30 months ago, I stood before our school board and pleaded with them to please focus more on skills and on careers as opposed to just a college path, because the weight of that education was so heavy on my oldest son that we were involved with, therapy and psychologists. And it was very, very intense because the school was so focused on the college path only. And my son is just not that. And I'm happy to report we were able to navigate that time in our lives. And he has now graduated as a young man working in the trades, which was always his passion. Along this journey, which if you look through 2022, the last 30 months, we've had a lot of upheaval in our society where race has been brought to the forefront. And I challenged our school board to say, those minorities that you stand for and that you advocate for, focusing on skills, career, trade center paths in high school can most immediately impact some of the people that you expressly say you stand for. And I said, why are we not doing this? And I gave them some feedback on a unit that my son was taught in 11th grade. It was called the American Dream Unit. And I thought it was a very interesting way to teach, race, to teach relations here for our students. So if we can bring up the one political cartoon, I guess it's categorized as, if we can bring that up on screen, this was interesting. So I had the opportunity to see this firsthand because my son was home during COVID, the internet learning. And I heard the teacher, this is what the teacher said that really brought me to this point that made me reach out to my guests on the show today. And the words were, write an essay on why people of color can't achieve the American dream. And it was through the lens of this cartoon on the screen. And I'm not here to say that people's lived experiences that are sins of the past as a nation don't exist. That is not my point at all. My major issue was the fact that it wasn't write an essay on why some people or some people of color can't achieve the American dream, because the people that I have joining me on the show today not only are living their American dream, they see our nation for the opportunity it offers. They understand that we are not without fault or flaw, but they have 100% thrown themselves into their own effort and their own success. And in fact, most that are joining me, and I loathe counting other people's money and success because I love celebrating it, but I will readily point out that some are far more successful than I am, and I am happy for them, and I'm happy to bring you them. So this genesis of 30 months for me has been very interesting. I wanted to do this show. I wanted to share their knowledge, their experiences with you around their lived experiences, around their opportunities that they've achieved, because they're powerful stories. And I felt it's so important, and I believe it because I want to be the change that I want to see. I challenged my school to bring in grandparents of children that I coached in youth sports, who I know those parents lived in times where they were lesser in our society, where they couldn't vote. And one gentleman in particular owns a ton of rental property as a successful person of color in our society. And our school was not only not resistant to that, they just said it didn't fit. And that is when I decided, you know what, I need to do my part to show our youth in America of all colors, of all types, that success can happen. So I am 100% happy to bring on our guests for this episode. We've got Robert Nelson, Ashley Herrera, Pedro Meneses, and Patrick Bolanos. Everybody, welcome to the show. Happy you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming us, man.
Happy to be here.
100%.
Thank you, Jeff.
100%. Well, thank you for joining me. So we're going to just kind of go around the clock, right? Clockwise. So we'll start with Robert. We'll go Ashley, Patrick, and then Pedro. Why don't we go down, like kind of introduce to the listeners who you are, where you were born, your journey here in America, family lineage, and did you go to college or not, and what are you doing now? And you can cheat in the notes that I sent in the chat, because that was a whole lot to rattle off, right? I don't expect you to memorize.
It's all good. I'm so happy to be in the room with such a phenomenal group of people. Many of these people I know personally, and I've seen their achievements, understand their struggles. I know something about their background, but I'm from Chicago. My name is Robert Nelson. I own Youth Enterprise. I'm from Chicago, and originally I grew up in the civil rights movement. I'm 61 years old. So I was back in the days when they initiated the mandatory busing process to send us to predominantly white school systems. And I've grown through that whole process. And when I became, I guess, in my 20s, when I started to become conscious of the fact that it's more important to just do something with your life that's of a positive impact for humanity rather than just existing, I looked around my community and noticed that there were young people making a living selling drugs. So I decided that if they could sell, they possibly could sell something else. And that's kind of when I began my journey to discover about sales, marketing, and engaging young people in some positive alternatives to the negative things that they were doing in the community. Since that time, I've had an opportunity to work with Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative for a couple of years. They have over 200 chapters across the country. And the whole objective was to empower people and show them that there are other opportunities, alternatives, and there are people who are successful in achieving success in a lot of different spaces that are of all different hues. I've actually had an opportunity to work with the National Black Business Trade Association for about 5 years. And during this experience, I began to notice that there's a lot of institutionalized racism that many people overlook. And sometimes it's a taboo to talk about some of these things. But the reality is that people like those that are in this room have taken on a stance. They've become successful. And not only are they achieving success, but they're opening up avenues of opportunities for other people. So right now, through the company that I work with, we work with independent school districts. We bring them fundraising opportunities. We bring them information from individuals like yourself to show them that there's a possibility for a different path. There are a lot of opportunities and a lot of alternatives. And I take my hat off to you, Jeff, for taking the initiative to speak your truth regarding this issue and to not be silent, because silence is often consent. So I empathize with the situation of what you've gone through with your own son. But the reality is that these are all our children. And the things that you guys are doing now is to be commended for taking a stance and saying, oh, this is not something that we can just overlook and bypass and go on as usual.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Ashley, why don't you share with everybody who you are, what you do? We got it in the notes there for you. If you need a little help, I can feed you a question for the answer.
All right, awesome. I'm Ashley Herrera. I'm a mortgage branch manager, mortgage loan expert. So I help anybody looking to buy or refinance a home. I have been in the business for over 10 years. I also have a business with my husband to where we build new construction homes. Our main focus is building affordable homes, which kind of goes hand in hand with this show. And as well as I'm a TV host for Financing the American Dream. Yeah, so where I'm from Texas. Most of my life I've been in Texas. And as far as my family heritage, my family came from Spain, migrated to New Mexico. We also have Native American blood. And I did go to college. I obtained my master's degree in psychology. I took that route because that's what I was told to do. We came from a family that was not wealthy at that time, and our idea of becoming wealthy was to get a college degree. Eventually, over time, I have changed my beliefs on obtaining a college degree. I feel that it has helped me to become who I am today, but I don't believe that's 100% my identity of who I have become from obtaining that college degree. Where do I get my determination to be where I am today? There's a lot of factors involved. I do want to be able to provide my family as well as my children and generations to come a legacy that I have left behind for them to make life easier, as well as them following my and my husband's footsteps to become the best versions of ourselves, become wealthy, and continue that for generations over generations.
Yeah.
Okay, Nana.
I love it. And Ashley, you're so humble. You know, I just want to applaud you at a time where housing prices are at an all-time high. Profits for builders are at an all-time high. You're making an active choice to
I'm on call.
build affordable housing
Yep.
for people in your hometown and your community. And that's great. And, you know, you can also blow your own horn a little bit. I recall the number 40. It was either you're developing 40 acres or a development with 40 homes. Am I right there? Or am I wrong?
We were looking at development for 40 homes. So that's something that we're working on.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the affordable homes, we want to be able to provide that sector that is missed. There's so many builders out there who are building for, the higher priced homes, and it's like a whole amount of people that are being left out. So that's our purpose and that's our mission, to be able to provide those homes for people who are on the lower end of income and still be able to live in something that is brand new, something that they take pride in and they live.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you. Mr. Trailer King, Patrick Bolanos, you're next, my friend.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me on. I commend you for what you're doing. I have kids in high school. My daughter is 16 years old. She's in high school. And so I really commend you for what you're doing with this show.
Thank you.
Spreading awareness, because I feel it's necessary, especially the way we grew up. It's totally different the way kids are growing up today. We didn't have social media. I didn't have a cell phone. I spent my time outdoors most of the time. So thank you for having me on, and I commend you for the initiative. I'm originally from Nicaragua. I was born and raised in Nicaragua. We migrated to the United States in 1984, fleeing a war-ridden country, civil war. And my family moved to St. Charles, Missouri in 1984. And then we moved back to you guys hear that in the background?
I can.
Yeah.
Is that hail?
That's my 2-year-old son trying to get into my office. I apologize. I moved here, and for me, America has always been like this huge opportunity, and not a lot of people see it the same way, especially here. And so I went to school. I got my degree from St. Louis University in management information systems. Growing up in Nicaragua, poor-ridden country, there's not a lot of opportunity there. I paid my way through school. I worked my way through school, and I thought school was the ticket for me, right? 9-to-5 job. Give me 1 second. I apologize, Jeff. Give me a second.
That's all right. We're going to pick up on your school. Pedro, why don't you pick it up?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Jeff. It's definitely
no
an
sweat.
honor. It's an honor to be here, man, and you consider me to be part of this project that you're doing. And so, yeah, my name is Pedro Meneses. I was born and raised in Guatemala. I moved to the States. It's going to be 10 years, December of this year, since I started this journey. And I mean, a lot of people, when they ask me how my life was back in Guatemala, it was actually a great life, because my dad is always being a successful businessman. I went to private school, so I did have a good life. I did have the opportunity to go to college, but I screwed it up, I never finished college, and I grew up having everything I ever wanted. But I believe that at some point that never helped me when I became an adult, so I was someone who thought that life owed him something, So that never served me when I was in my 20s and my early 20s. And I came to a point in my life when I realized that everybody around me, my friends at the time, everybody was graduating college. Everybody was getting good jobs. Everybody was getting into good relationships. Not that I ever wanted a good job, because I think that never appealed to me. I always had this mentality of, I want to do my own thing, So I got to a point in my life where I realized that the only way that I was able to, if I wanted to grow, if I wanted to find purpose in my life, if I wanted to find something meaningful to do with my life, I needed to step away and just separate myself from my family. So the opportunity showed up, and I told my parents that I was almost 10 years ago. I told my mom I'm coming back in 21 days, just right before Christmas, and it's been 10 years that I've been here. So it's been a crazy journey, but I'm grateful for it, because these past 10 years have turned me into a different man, and I see life different. And now, and I understand a lot of things now, especially with all the issues that we are experiencing in the education system, in the country, in the entire world. I think my experience and everything that I've been able to live gives me a very unique perspective. And my determination to be here today is just, I believe, the fact that I discovered that it was on my hands what I wanted to do with my life, and how far I wanted to go in life, and the type of life I was able to build for myself. So I think that's my motivation every day, just knowing that I can be a free man, and that's depend on me and nobody else,
Love it. I love that. Love it. Patrick, we can pick back up with you where we left off at college. So you went to college for information systems technology, I think you said?
I did. And so I went to school. I was doing the 9-to-5 thing. I was groomed to be a corporate job. I worked for Citibank in Nicaragua. I guess the most important part here is it took a very traumatic event to shift the way my life was going, right? I was living a mediocre life, so to speak. And I cannot attribute anything I learned in school, high school, college, to the shift in my life. It's a shame, because I feel we need to do so much more for our youth, and it's not in the books. It's not in calculus class. It's not in science class. It's outside, and it starts with our mind and with our mindset. So my intro, I would like to, if you guys get anything from me today regarding how we are, mindset for me is key. And that's something that I hope to contribute to my children's life. And it's going to be tough to do because it's something that you only can do it on your own. And when you accept or start listening to other people is when that really, becomes a big difference in someone's life.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, after those intros, it was really a common theme about that self-determination. And, Pedro said to be a free man. Robert referenced looking around, seeing that there is a better opportunity. Ashley saw it through college and she's like, you know what? I think I can do better a different way. And then Patrick, focusing on mindset. So questions that we've put together, Robert and I spent a lot of time back and forth because Robert has led discussions like this. We spent some time back and forth to kind of frame our questions today. Again, my goal in this, because I have a different lived experience than you all do as a white man, as opposed to somebody of, Hispanic, Black, ethnic race. So for me, my idea here is I want to amplify your voices with my platform for our youth today. That's my number one goal. So this is really more about your discussion on the platform. So the first question that Robert and I came up with, and we'll go ladies first, if that's okay, Ashley.
Yeah.
Is race or culture an issue in today's society? So from your own perspective, let's have you throw in on that.
I would say, even with my business, with a mortgage business, I would say absolutely. We see headlines all the time that we see mortgage loan officers or even realtors not giving a chance to maybe certain neighborhoods or a certain type of culture, color, etc. And you would think that wouldn't happen so often now, but it happens more than we think it does. And it's unfortunate. As well as when it comes to, I know that you had mentioned that you have your son in school, and I believe you said it was a private school. I also have my son in a private school, and they are heavily focused on college, which is fine, totally fine, because we can still instill our beliefs to our son. However, I have noticed, and then because I'm learning too. My son is 9, so he's going through the grades, and I'm seeing that the school really does put a big way on my son's beliefs as well. For example, I've had in the past where my son was one-on-one with a teacher, and he had said that he liked LeBron James and he looked up to him because he's like the superstar. And at that time, my son was super into basketball, and she made a comment that was negative to say, well, he's not a good person. I'm like, okay. So my son came home to me upset. Like, why isn't he a good person? Instead of her saying, oh, that's awesome. I mean, why do you like LeBron James? What is it that you see in him that is inspiring? Instead of, going that approach, she went a whole different approach. So I do see that in both personal and business, as well as, again, with my children. And it's new to me with my children, and it's more eye-opening for me. It makes me really upset and sad about it because, it's still here. It's still impacting. And, with my son coming home upset and sad, it definitely affected his ego on that. So those are just some examples of, it's absolutely still here.
Yeah. So we'll go bottom up this time. And for those only listening to the show, we record every episode of Big Ticket Life in a video show format. So when I say on the screen, I'm looking at a screen right now. So briefly, I'm going to add something to what Ashley said, and then Pedro will go with you, Robert, and then Patrick, okay, on this same question. If race or culture is race or culture an issue in today's society? Ashley, to add to your point about how real estate and really by extension banking can discriminate at times. This was one of the things that I was through the context of that American Dream Unit, I said, I have no issue having our students learn about what was represented on the board game. And if you're listening, you can Google this. You could Google high school American Dream Unit, comes right up. I said, teach our history 100%. But I think when you have students looking across the aisle at one another and identifying about what's on the front of the room, and they've been friends and they've had conversations about conquering the world together, and then this is put in front of them, I see that as an issue. I felt there was a lot better way to teach it. I'm not saying not, but I challenged our educators and our school board administration. I said, teach where this stuff happens today, make it relevant, i.e. real estate banking. I think that's where some of the biggest things happen. And you brought that up right away. So I just wanted to add that you echoed exactly what I thought all along. So Pedro, let's have you pick up the question.
Well, this is a very interesting question, man, because, first of all, the fact that I didn't grow up in the United States, it gives me a different perspective when it comes to racism, when it comes to race and all that kind of stuff. What I believe is that beyond a race or a culture issue, we have an identity issue, and what I see around and what I see sometimes in the news or what I see what's happening in school is like people, or especially kids, are being bombarded with all this information that where they don't really know who they are, So I think the fact that you don't know who you are, the fact that you don't know like what to believe, like the fact that now the color of your skin becomes an issue or not, has put our society, especially kids, in this position where they don't know what to believe in anymore. You know what I mean? So I think for me, in my opinion, that's the root of this issue. Like because if you take away the identity of someone, there's no opportunity, there's no ground, there's no fertile ground to grow for dreams, for really have that ambition to do something different, to understand that just because your skin color is different, it doesn't mean that you cannot be successful. Because in my 10 years of experience in this country, I have never faced any racism. I don't know, because I look like a mad dog. So I don't know if that's the reason why. I'm not small either, but I never have to experience anything like that. But one of the things that I have seen a lot is that people have no identity, and when someone tries to come against me and try to tell me that I can do something or I don't have the ability to do X, Y, Z, is something that I don't allow myself to believe. So yeah, I think the root of this issue is like, what identity are we giving to our kids? What are we teaching them? What kind of belief system we are installing in them? Because if you take away people's identity, then we don't have anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. So I want you to think about what we can teach our kids in relation to that identity and belief system. I'm going to go to Robert next, and then we'll circle back to you after Patrick, and we'll pick up on the next question.
Definitely, I appreciate you. Definitely, the race does have an impact in today's society, and it's an odd scenario because of the fact that there are many things that have changed. We commend ourselves on, as a society, waking up to the fact that discrimination is wrong. So people say, okay, well, we're going to stop that. But there's a concept in physics called inertia. So there have been many policies and institutionalized structured procedures that are set in place and still exist. So just because a person or a society or a particular political party says, okay, we're going to stop that because we know it's wrong, it doesn't stop the momentum of the process. Many people are still caught up in that cycle. One of the perfect examples I can reference is there is an empowerment zone allocation. It was a bill that was written, I think, during the Trump administration. And this empowerment zone was really designed to give people who are wealthy an opportunity to invest in underprivileged communities, right? The challenge is many of the people that lived in those underprivileged communities didn't understand the process. They couldn't take advantage of the benefit of the assets. So many of the wealthy investors went in and gentrified these communities and ended up getting access to a resource that the people in the communities originally had access to, but they were pushed out. So there are a lot of systematized racist policies that are in place that still affect us, whether it be directly or indirectly. So I think we have to drill down and dig down deep. And I think one of the things that Patrick said that is profoundly true, awareness is necessary to create any change. When you're oblivious and say, okay, it doesn't really matter. Well, yeah, it matters to somebody. And if it matters to somebody, it affects everybody. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. Patrick, let's pick it up from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with Pedro on this one. We get what we focus on. You know, that I'm a believer in that. So if we focus on issues, you'll find racism, right? I mean, if you focus on it, you'll find it. It's exact. But if you focus on anything, you'll find it. And so I like to focus on opportunity, solutions. I'm a believer that we can overcome any environment we're in if we first focus on ourselves. And so when I see anybody, right, I'm Nicaraguan. I got called names when I was in elementary school. I mean, not very, but they didn't affect me. Like it didn't. I remember being called those names, but I didn't go home and tell my mom or that I felt bad or anything. I just didn't understand it, right? And so what I would say is, if we focus on making the environment around us better for everybody, and I don't know what that means in terms of institutionalized policies. I don't, because I'm not really involved in, but I focus on making the world a better place, but I can't do that if I don't make myself better. But I want to teach everybody
100%.
that is the way to do it. And that's all I got to say about that part.
Yeah. So what I would add is, for those listening, and I talked with our guests, that the goal of this show is to get it in front of youth in school today. Because as I said at the top of the show, when I said, well, look, I know people that have lived the experiences, like they're alive, breathing air today. They are direct connections. I can bring that. I can have that person come. I can make a connection for you. Will you bring them in? That was rebuffed. And that's why I'm bringing you these great people today. You know, from that last question, is race or culture an issue in today's society? You heard different perspectives. And I think we can do both. We can have experiences like Pedro and Patrick, where they focus and find opportunity all the time. And then you can have experiences like Robert has, who has a very unique experience growing up in that civil rights era. I think both exist. And I'll add a word of empathy to understand, or a phrase, empathy to understand. We can do both at the same time. So yeah, I think the great little round there. Pedro, I'm going to have you pick it up on the mindset and belief system thing. Why don't we start there and see if we add a little left turn in our conversation.
You know, we were talking about awareness, right? And I think if we really want to change the situation and really want to help, especially the kids, you know, and the young people that are coming out of school and all that stuff, awareness and teaching them how to think for themselves, I think is important, you know, because unfortunately, and I think that everybody in this show can agree that our kids are being pretty much conditioned to not think for themselves, to depend on the system, to not have the ability to be independent, and that's the real issue, you know. And I'm sure I don't have any kids, but you, Jeff, you are part of. You have kids. You've been involved in school, and you know that that's the condition of our schools in this country right now. You know, that is the path, pretty much, condition people to depend on someone else. And I think all of us here in this call, we are all entrepreneurs, right? And I think we have to understand at a certain point that part of your mindset is to understand that there's only three major things that you can control in your life. And outside of those three things, there's absolutely nothing you can control. And that's the way you think, how do you react, and how you feel, right? So I think we can teach our kids how to do those three things and how to focus on those three things. Then they can focus on the right things. They can bring awareness to their lives, and they can think clearly and start questioning things, and start questioning what's happening around them. Like, why am I learning this? Why am I teaching this, right? Because if you go around, and I don't know about you, but for me, for the past 2 years, the past 2 years have been crazy, but I've been going a lot, and I've been paying attention, and I've been trying to interact with a lot of people. And the reality is that the way I see it is like, yeah, we have race issues and cultural issues, but I think they're not as big as we think they are, or as we think society and the media and the government make this look like, you know, because I interact with a lot of people. Every time I go to the grocery store, for example, I always say hi to the cashier and try to strike a conversation. and things not seems to be the same outside on the street, than compared to what we see on social media and all that stuff. So I think if we bring that awareness and we start teaching our kids how to think for themselves and start questioning everything around them, can help them really understand like what it is exactly what's happening around them, what they can focus on, and start really understanding that they can have a different way of thinking. They can decide what they want to believe or not. But I think most importantly is just that self-responsibility that nobody's teaching, like we see the participation trophies now, right? We see it's okay if you lose.
Yeah.
And you know that real life is not that way. That outside in the world, things doesn't work that way. And it hasn't worked that way for thousands of years. And it's not going to change because our principles never change. So I do believe that awareness and really just teaching them how to think for themselves can be something that can start changing our culture and race issues and that identity issue that I believe we have around the country.
Yeah. No, thank you for that perspective. I'll add, Ashley, you had said your children are in private school. It's great. Mine are actually in public school. So one of the things that happens there, and Pedro, you talked about personal responsibility. So we're going to pick up on this mindset belief thing. We'll go top down this time. So we'll go Robert, Patrick, and then Ashley, since Pedro kicked it off. One of the things that happens in our schools locally is our children are allowed to just do homework really whenever and turn it in whenever. If they don't get a good enough grade on the test, they're allowed to retake it. And really the only slack adjuster is when the teacher finally has to submit final grades. So there's this aura, there's this environment of you don't really have to try that hard. You can turn it in whenever. And if it isn't good enough, you get to do it again and again and again. And I know in our home that really came to a head 6 weeks before my son's high school graduation. And we're all members of the Apex entrepreneur community. So it relates why I bring that up. But my son was never taught that. Like his mom and dad, we do the work. We do it when we say we're going to do it. And we do it to the best of our abilities. And I said to him point blank, I said, look, kid, if you mess up English, and he had a failing grade 6 weeks out from high school graduation, the only credit needed, if you miss it, I'm going to miss the opportunity to go to $1 Million Mastermind. And I bring all of this up about Apex and the $1 Million Mastermind event because Pastor Eric Thomas, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a gentleman that's had a different lived experience in life, no doubt about it. But he says, you know what? If you're starting 2.5 times behind, I'm paraphrasing here, and I know he said this from the event, if you're starting 2.5 times behind everybody else, you simply have no choice but to put forth at least 2.5 times more of the effort. And that's the mindset we need to teach our children and our youth. So Robert, on that, I'll turn it over to you to kind of pick up on what Pedro threw out there, and then we'll get back to our pre-planned questions.
Okay. And I actually want to touch on something that Pedro said earlier, and that is this identity issue. Because even though we may be from different cultures, the reality is that we are all of the human race. And the human race is the offspring of the divine. So when you think about identity issues, realizing who you really are, and I agree 100% that you do get what you focus on. And yet there are times when you're in communities or in environments where people don't give you the clarity as to what you need to be focusing on, right? So one of the things I really love about this community, because as you mentioned, we've all been a part of a mutual mastermind community because we think in the similar ways. And we have a tendency to gravitate and communicate and connect with other people who are like-minded. So sometimes we need to create exposure for our children so that they can be exposed to people who are thinking in a perspective like Patrick, like Pedro, like Ashley, that are saying, it's possible. There's possibilities here. It can be done. No matter what the obstacle, it can be done. But many times they don't get that from the confines of their educational system. So I think part of our responsibility is making sure we make that possible, that we create that exposure for them. So that's why I really commend you for this whole process that you're going through, Jeff, and actually creating a platform where people can speak a truth that can change generations to come.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was important to me to do that, and that's why we're here. So Patrick, why don't you pick up on mindset and belief system and identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it, and I'm a huge believer in mindset. It's the first thing that that I think somebody needs to focus on to get anything else in life, right? And let's be honest, life is not fair. Life is not fair. If you I was having a conversation with my brother, or listening to my brother with Mike's podcast, and Eric Thomas was speaking about. He's been to third world countries. Third world countries, they're 10 times, 15 times, 25 times behind what everybody else. The poorest person in the U.S. is 100 times further than the poorest person in India or Nicaragua or Central America or anybody in Central America. But you do get a lot of people that migrate here who succeed really, really fast. Why? Because they know that this is the land of opportunity, because they can't do what they can get done here quickly, right? I've built up 8-figure business in 4 years. Nicaragua is not the environment that allows somebody like myself to do that.
Yeah.
But I understand the struggle. I understand what hard work is. I understand that it's not fair. It's not going to be fair. And so if I have this right, which I'm pointing to my, I don't know if people are looking at the video, but I'm pointing to my head.
Yep.
If I have that right, I can accomplish anything I want. And so
yes, sir.
If I can share that or relay that message or feed that message to kids, then, you know, you've been on my podcast, Jeff, working for a dream, bro. Everybody's working on a dream every single day.
And on that note of working for a dream, because, you know, you shared your college career, you were in the professional world. I introduced you as Mr. Trailer King. Share real quick what you do. And, you know, you really put dreams in motion with the trailers you build for people. So real quick, because drive into what you do there, because I want to make sure people hear it.
So we manufacture concession trailers and food trucks. And we get all colors, skin colors, races, Hispanics, blacks, Indian, like from India, and Native Americans, people in New Mexico. Everybody comes to my facility with the dream of owning a food truck. We facilitate that for them. The entrepreneurial spirit, like we get to help people from the very bottom scale to however far they can go. And so our company, I was just talking about this yesterday. It is so awesome, the amount of different races, people, and we don't really discuss, like when somebody comes to our shop, we don't see their skin color. We just see that they're passionate about getting a dream started, and you know that's why it's so awesome, and so that's why I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, I love it. It comes right through. Ashley, let's have you pick up on this idea of beliefs and teaching our kid to secure their own identity.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, with the mindset portion of it, I believe like with our children, we have to create leaders. There's a lot of people out there who are followers, and you have to have that leader to be able to get those followers to also, you know, come within this belief system that they can also become great. So I'm a huge believer in, again, I can obtain anything that I want to if I put my mind to it. I do teach my children as well that same concept. Right now, my son, as I mentioned, yes, he was into basketball at that time. Now he's into football. He's literally competing for a quarterback position. And I know that I talked about it most recently, that I'm on the sidelines because I feel like I'm with him. Like I want him to be the greatest he can be. And he's literally chosen out of 38 down to 2 quarterbacks. And it's like, I'm literally seeing my son shine. Like he is doing it. He's living what I would want him to. I know, of course, yes, he's going to choose his own ideas, his beliefs, etc. But I am making an impact on my child, and he's going to be a great child and a leader too. He's going to be able to lead other people. And one thing that I learned with, being a quarterback, you have to be very smart. You have to be able to lead people. You have to be somebody who's going to be able to get the other team mates or the team players to follow you. So again, that mindset and implementing, we have to be able to get our children to become leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I love that he's competing.
Yeah.
It's going to teach him a lot, whether he gets the spot or not. He's going to learn a lot. I just want to interject right now. So for any of our young people that are listening, I'm going to encourage you to hit up the show notes where you're watching this, whether that's on YouTube or on a podcast, in your notes on your player, on your phone. Follow these people. Their social channels, their websites are here. I'm telling you, you will learn 10 times more from a successful woman like Ashley Herrera right there. Boom. Right there. Slinging mortgage loans, making money, developing housing developments, flipping real estate, living the life. And ladies, she's doing it with respect for herself. Okay? She is not sitting around on social media channels in bikinis trying to get points. She's leading the path. Right? I mean, we laugh, but I mean, we know that this isn't really the topic of this show, but we know. And, Pedro and Robert and Patrick, follow them too. There are so many great people to follow in this world. Greater than, celebrities are cool. Like, they have a place in our society, but I'm telling you, their achievement is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent. Folks like you see on your screen, like you're hearing right now on your speakers, you can connect with them far easier and have more people like them in your feeds, in your Instagram, in your Snapchat, in your Facebook. I know Facebook's, for the old people today, but you can have, right, guys? Like you can have so many more of folks like yourselves be impactful. And I bet you, if you reached out as a listener to any one of these people right now and you said, hey, I saw you on the Big Ticket Life. Could I ask you some questions? I mean, I'd be shocked if anybody would say no. You'd all welcome that, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just felt it important to interject that there because I really want people who listen to be taken away that there's a connection here with these amazing people. They've achieved it. Some have gone to college, and this is not about college bashing. This is about you understanding there are different paths in life, and maybe college is a part of it. But you're seeing, real people achieving unheard of success, maybe that you're not hearing in your environment. You're hearing it right now from folks that you can look up to. So, to the topic of, race and culture, we don't, I want to have an engaging conversation. So we kind of we had different perspectives, but Pedro, you don't have any children. Is that right? At this
Not yet.
point? Not yet.
Not.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody want to take a stab at if your children have been affected by practices or policies, maybe by conventional ways that we hear sadly about today, or maybe an unconventional way? We'll go.
Definitely.
Robert, go ahead.
Definitely. My children have been impacted by it. I actually have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. My grandchildren are still being impacted by it. But one of the things that I see is a common theme, and that's what sets us apart, the people that are in this room, from a lot of people in the mainstream society, is that it's all about mindset. So one of the things that I made sure that I did is I taught my children how to think. I didn't teach them what to think, but I taught them how to be discerning, be discriminating, be able to have their own opinion, be able to formulate their own views, be able to have the kind of individuality that enables them to stand out uniquely, whatever their gifting may be. So I think that that's one of the common things I've heard throughout this conversation is that it's all about the mindset. This is true. But in school, they don't teach you how to think. They give you information, right? So, and it's not necessarily, I'm not saying it's their responsibility. They may not even know how to think. So I'm not going to blame them saying, oh, you should teach my child how to think. We are the ones that are responsible. First, we have to learn how to think ourselves. And then we have to teach them how to use their powers of their own mind, their own imagination, their own faith, their own initiative to make things happen for themselves. So yes, they've been impacted, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we provide the framework that they need to live and build on.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm sure your dream was to never have your children or grandchildren have that, but I'm happy that you're giving them the tools and the strength to rise above. That's great. Ashley, how about you?
Of course, yes. I feel like he's impacted. I mean, with that story that I gave you, I think that's probably the only experience that I've really had. Me personally, I'm with Pedro. I really have not had any type of anything towards myself. So it's kind of hard for me to relate to it. And again, it might be because I'm not looking for it. It's not anything that I think about on a daily, and I'm looking to win and not think about those things. But I would piggyback and say that making sure that, again, our kids have their own identity, understand that they can have their own ways of thinking. And, like something that's coming to my mind, and like when I think, I like see pictures and I see something in my mind, and I'm thinking of like, if I'm a child and somebody tells me something, just because they're an adult doesn't mean because they're an adult I have to think that they're right. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just trying to relate with children, because whenever I was growing up, it's like, well, you listen to the adult because I'm the adult, and you got to do what I say. And, if you're in school, it's kind of the same concept. I'm the teacher, you listen to me. And this is what I'm teaching you. This is what you need to know. So being able to make sure that our children know that although other people have different opinions, that you can still go against that and have your own beliefs and understanding of what you believe to know to be true. So I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does 100%. What I will say, again, because my goal is I want as many educators to be able to put this in front of your students. What Ashley just said is 100% spot on. You need to take in all kinds of opinions, but certainly treat, whether that's an adult, a teacher, someone older than you, someone younger than you, treat them with respect, right? And try to have that empathy. We talked about it earlier, right? We can have awareness. We can have the ability to understand everybody's perspectives and their own lived experiences, but we need to do that with respect for one another, 100%. But Ashley, great point about taking in those opinions and really seeing, like, is this relevant to my life and my goals? You said it. I'm here to win.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason that today you listening to this as a young person in our country cannot. We're trying to give you some tools of how to rise above and win. So that's awesome. Patrick, for you, let's have you wrap up this section.
I can't say that I know if they've been affected or not but what I do try to tell my daughter, who's 16, my son is 12, got two young ones. I just ask to be careful with the herd mentality, because there's a lot of messages out there that can easily keep you focused on the wrong things. And so if everybody is saying it and doing it, maybe it's a good, question it. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why everybody else and the media and the school and every system is so adamant in spreading that message fiercely. And if they do that, I mean, they should be okay.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. I love it. So our last question was going to kind of be like a two-parter, right? Or maybe a three-parter. So this is about how you envision the world changing, on the topics that we've covered today. But let's dig into why you do what you do and how it serves humanity. Like, I love Robert's phrase. He uses humanity an awful lot. So I'm going to let Robert kick this off, since he's kind of the inspiration for this question. So why you do what you do, how it serves, and like, what's your, like, if it ends tomorrow and you accomplish the goal, what was the goal?
The goal was to become the most, what I would refer to as in the likeness of my father. to grow up into the image of he that created me and placed me here on the planet. Because the reality is that each one of us, regardless of the diverse cultures that we come from, there's one common denominator. And I believe that as we live this life and express the divinity that is within us, using our own creativity to contribute some value to the world, that gives us the ability to make a deposit, because many people have made deposits that represent the foundation that we stand on today. And to them all, I owe a debt. So as we move through this world, I heard one of my friends say, he said, the earth was, we didn't inherit it from our parents. We're renting it from our children. And if we don't take out the time to make sure we build a foundation, a framework, and create a bridge for them, if we get so involved in our day-to-day living, just trying to eke in and out of existence or become the most successful person that we can on the planet, without taking a interest in the needs of humanity at large, then we've missed the mark. Because we're not here just to get it, because you're going to leave it. I promise you this. We're here to impact humanity in a positive way, to the best of our ability to express the love that is within us and to leave that legacy for the next generation to come.
Yeah. I want to follow up on, working to be the image of my Father. So you're speaking about God, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. So again, for youth listening to this, my hope would be schools play it. I don't want schools to turn it off right now because, schools and religion and all this stuff, right? I want to challenge. Well, right. But I want to challenge to this point for young people listening to this. I was away from faith for a while. I came back to it with this thought. If we believe that at the end of our time, we just go in a hole in the ground and that's it, that's a pretty sad existence. I mean, the reality is no matter how large your life is on this earth, it is for a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second in the cosmos of time. We have the James Webb Telescope sending us all these amazing pictures from the outer reaches of outer space. And the reality is what we learn from that is those images are but a moment in a moment of time. To the concept of divinity, I want you to think about all the ideas that get planted in your head and where they come from. And I would challenge you with this. If you think those ideas don't come from somewhere greater than you, think about that for another second. Give that some more thought. We don't need to talk about Father, God, the creator, divinity, as though you're going to church on Sunday, reciting Bible verses, passing out pamphlets on the corner. I'm not talking about that kind of religion per se. I'm talking about respect for the fact that there is a higher power above us. And if we don't respect what's downloaded into our brain, the ideas, the inspiration, the motivations you felt in your life that maybe you might not be right now, if you don't take those in, that's a dishonor. And it's a dishonor to yourself. So just a little aside there. I felt I'd kind of follow up on what you shared there, Robert.
Not only that, Jeff, if you don't follow through on those ideas, they'll be taken from you and given to someone else.
Bingo. Yeah. So our question was, again, envisioning the world changing. We could pick up on this a little more if we want, but the question was, again, envision the world and changing, why you do what you do, how it serves humanity. Patrick, since you're on main screen, we'll have you pick it up, and then we'll go to Ashley and then Pedro to wrap up our time together.
Awesome. Thanks. So, well, there's many reasons of why I do what I do. But for example, at our company, we want to create financial independence for families. I know what it's like being broke, being paycheck to paycheck, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, or how you're going to afford rent the following month. Or I know what it's like feeling the pressure and the anxiety around Christmas time. And so I want people, and it took me a long time to figure it out. So I want to help people figure it out. My mission is to help people break through their limiting beliefs so that they can, one, become financially independent, but then through becoming financially independent, they can also help others on the way. For example, once you start asking yourself better questions, I figured out I'm passionate about baseball. I wanted to be a baseball player. So I started a baseball academy in Nicaragua. And through the job that I have and the money I create, I focus or I steer that towards helping underprivileged youth in Nicaragua. And so I believe once you have fixed your mindset, right, and you have become a contribution, or you have contributed something into a marketplace or adding value, then you can also figure out ways to help others, where you come from, etc. So that's why I do what I do. Besides, obviously, leaving a legacy for my family, which is super important to me as well.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm going to throw something out there, Patrick. You put it on your Facebook, so I'm going to assume it's public information. So your dream is helping, your mission is to help families succeed and obtain wealth, right? I got that right? What I just heard?
Well, right now, through mobile food units is what my channel is.
Right. So you're doing that, and it was only recently, like I think maybe the last 90 days, that you bought your first home.
Yes, sir.
So congratulations to that. But I bring that up to you listening. Here is a man helping others achieve their dreams before the one cornerstone of the American dream has been checked off for himself. That is powerful. That is somebody who gives. And I hope that's one thing you can take away from this. He also shared his passion for baseball. And, you didn't make it as a baseball player, but you can attach to that dream by helping others get that dream. And so for all of our other panelists and our guests, I want, as we get through and we wrap up, so Patrick, your thing in Nicaragua with baseball, talk about that. And then everybody else, I want to talk about how we give back, maybe through similar vehicles or other kinds of things like that.
So I have a nonprofit. I'm a part of a nonprofit called Helping Kids Round First, which contributes. We help kids, underprivileged kids in Nicaragua, get the opportunity to own their very own baseball equipment. Right in the U.S. of A., there is so much equipment. Kids buy it every year. They get brand new pieces of equipment, brand new pieces of baseball bats. And so Helping Kids Round First is a nonprofit. We distribute baseball equipment around the country. We have a baseball academy called Working for a Dream. Our team, our 13 through 15-year-olds, just beat a better equipped Puerto Rican team, a better rested Puerto Rican team. We look like the Bad News Bears because we don't have the top level equipment. But these guys showed up, won the tournament, and now next week on Monday, they're flying into Vero Beach, Florida, and they get the shot at the World Series. I'm going to be there rooting for them all the way. And
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. This is just an example of kids who don't have anything. And we're giving them, we're changing their environment. We're changing the way they think about how they can help their families. And, being from a third world country, these kids are one of the reasons I do what I do. I love seeing this. I love that video. Thank you so much for putting that on there.
Yeah. Well, what I want you as the listener, as the watcher, to take away from what Patrick just shared, we touched on earlier, Pastor Eric Thomas, talking about if you're starting 2.5 steps behind, you gotta pick up 3 steps, right? There's the baseball team. They had lesser equipment, lesser uniforms, but they had 10x the effort. Yeah, right there, the living embodiment of it, right there. All right, so Ashley, we'll have you go, and then, like I said, Pedro will wrap it up. So how do you envision change in the world? Why do you do what you do? How does it serve humanity? And then how are you giving back to humanity?
Yeah, I believe that everything that I'm doing, that's with the mortgage business, the new construction, as well as the TV host for Financing the American Dream, they all go hand in hand with being able to help other people. One with the mortgage, I solely focus on helping those where other lenders will not. Again, that's where, the lower credit scores come in. They have some crazy credit, but I find ways to be able to help them. And then also giving that education to anyone that I can, because that is something that's missing in our education system, to where they're not teaching our children how to buy a house. I don't even think they show them how to write a check anymore. Me being a business owner, we have contractors who still want checks all the time. They still need to know how to write a check. Just that financial literacy is something that is needed. So with the mortgage business, I'm able to do that. With the new construction, the same thing. I'm able to provide affordable homes that is missing everywhere. Of course, me and my husband, we're making a small dent. I wish we could do so much more. Again,
doing it.
Yes, and that's right. We're doing it. We're making that choice that although, other builders are looking at their spread because it's not enough, it doesn't matter. That's not the one thing that we're looking at. We're not looking at that spread. We're looking at what we're able to provide other people, that opportunity to become homeowners and to be able to own a new home. And then again, with a TV host, I'm able to spread that message nationwide to let other people know what it is that I'm doing. So it is really, really important to me to be able to cut the steps that people would have to go through, or maybe let me just tell you that I had to go through to be able to where I'm at. I want to be able to cut that as fast as I can for others, so they don't have to go through the struggles. They don't have to face the challenges that it takes to be able to, in the aspect of mortgages, becoming a homeowner, or, becoming a business owner, becoming wealthy, helping their kids become business owners, and continuing that legacy. So it's really important for me because, yes, I came from a poor family, and I feel it's my duty to be able to because I'm in the position to be able to help other people. It's my duty to do that. And that's what I do every day.
Yeah. And your words, my duty, complement perfectly what I want to share from what you just shared. The ultimate flex right now is what you're doing in the new construction. My grandfather taught me integrity is what you do when no one is looking. For you listening and watching, integrity is what you do with what Ashley's doing with home building. Right now, there is so much more money she could be making in home building. There's no doubt in my mind. Her duty, as she said, and it's so awesome you look at it that way, is to create houses that are affordable. That's the ultimate flex. And by the way, her Instagram profile is on fire. You need to follow it. We just had it on the screen. That's why it pays to watch the show. But I'm telling you, I said it before, you need to follow these people. This is not to throw your teachers under the bus. This is to give you a different perspective. And I hope your teachers can be welcoming in this perspective and have what you learn in the classroom complement what you're hearing right here. Ashley, so are there any charities, like any things that you do that you give back that you focus on? Before we move on
So one of the things that you kind of mentioned, like what we do behind the scenes, is me and my husband, any homes that we also sell, we take a percentage from those sales, and we put it in a savings account, because our goal is to be able to build a home when we get there once a year and provide it to a family who is needing it. So this is something that we do behind the scenes. Something that we don't really let anybody know. So there you go.
There it is. Now we know. That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, Pedro, bring us home, my friend.
Yeah, man. So, Jeff, if you allow me, I would like to answer this question from a different perspective, because I think we all 100%. In this call, I think at the end of the day, like we were talking a minute ago, like we all have a purpose in life, right? If you haven't seen outside and you haven't seen the sunrise and how everything in this world works and in the universe, and you don't believe that there's not a higher power to have a purpose for your life, you really need to change your mindset, So I think we all have a purpose and we all have a mission in this life. And for me, man, it's really just to, besides building legacy, besides being able to help people, besides being able to have enough money to say, like, yeah, I can help whenever with everything I can. I really want my life to be an example of what's possible and what winning looks like in all areas. But what I want to do is to go back a little bit to where everything started, because when you ask me if I have kids, I don't have kids, but I was in school at one point in my life, and I was in the position where all these kids that are going to be watching this are right now. And I know that some of them are wondering right now, like, I don't know what to do with my life. Maybe they're questioning everything they're looking at school, everything that they're learning, everything that their teachers are saying. They're questioning the idea of going to college. They don't feel comfortable with that, maybe, because I felt that way at some point, and being a little bit different and thinking different since I was in school put me in a lot of trouble, because everybody just wanted me to follow the system, and I know there's a lot of kids that they feel that way. People that are watching this right now, they probably feel that way as well, So what I want to do is to challenge people, man, into really, because this is a thought that I had before even we started, and I wrote it down. You're only the minority if you consider yourself part of the minority. So if you're watching this, or you're listening to this, if you're right now sitting in your class or in your house or whatever you're sitting, if you're really thinking all this stuff, like you have that fire inside of you that is telling you, man, something doesn't feel right about school. Something doesn't feel right about having to go to college, getting a job, pay my bills and die, start questioning those things and start asking yourself, what else is out there for me? Because that was the path that I followed for me to be in this place in my life, where I have a fire for building businesses. I have a fire for doing my best. I have a fire for being a good husband, for being the best I can for my family, but everything started by questioning those things. So, because everything from the beginning, when we talk about mindset, right? And like I said, if you consider yourself the minority, you're going to stay the minority. But if you allow yourself to dream, to think differently, to ask what else can be out there for me, like, it's really, this is the path that I want to follow or not. If you really start asking yourself those questions, regardless how long it takes you to get there, eventually you're going to get there. Eventually those answers are going to follow on your hands, because like I said before, if you don't believe that there's no higher purpose in your life than just having to go to school and follow the path that 99% of the people in this world follows, I will challenge you, and I will challenge that thought process. So I just wanted to answer that question that way, man. I hope that helps.
No, 100%, 100%. We had your social media scrolling on the screen. Pretty much, if people check out Way of the Modern Beast or The Modern Beast, they're going to connect with you, correct?
Yes.
And it will be in the show notes, but just to get it out there. Man, I love it. Love everything you're doing. I love everything you all are doing. I have genuinely appreciated everybody's time, all of the information that you poured into anybody that's going to be watching this. I really hope you sitting in the classroom can see the success coming out of your screen. Again, hit the show notes up, go to their websites, please connect with these fine examples of people. All right. And you will learn something. And I would challenge you to do that, please, because your life can change if you follow, success leaves clues, and these people have them for days. They can put a week on it. They've got so much success dripping off of them. Just follow it. Look at what they do and pick up on it. All right. Everybody, man, this has been such a joy, such a pleasure. Thank you for being a great contributor to part one. Really appreciate you.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's this part one of Success in America on the Big Ticket Life. We'll pick it up. We'll have a second episode with some more amazing guests. Thank you so much for tuning in to this very special episode of the Big Ticket Life. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Big Ticket Life. You've heard from another amazing guest living their own big ticket life, and now it's time to live yours. First, I'd love for you to take me up on my free gift to you. Claim your gift at gift.thebigticketlife.live. That's gift.thebigticketlife.live. See, all your life you've been told what is and what isn't possible by the loudest voices from the cheapest seats. It's time to finally do life and business on your terms. Sure, you've heard similar things, but without clarity on what can be done, it's easy to have your customers, employees, maybe even partners, and your spouse keep you from truly living a big ticket life. My big ticket methods shift you into that investor seat in your business, away from commodity and away from competition, into a market of one, so so you can finally live your own big ticket life. So my gift to you is for you to book your discovery call today, where we'll uncover first the Chivo behaviors, those chief everything officer behaviors that hold you back, and why moving into the investor seat in your own business is critical. 2, we'll uncover the premium position that's up for grabs right now in your market that you're missing out on. And 3, which big ticket methodologies are just waiting to be dropped into your business to explode your sales and profits. So again, thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love for you to take action right now. Accept this gift, book your call, go to gift.thebigticketlife.live. Again, that's gift.thebigticketlife.live.